Good evening, I'm ABC6 investigator Brooks JAROSZ.
When you walk up to the door, there's signs telling you no guns.
That's troubling.
Well, here downtown, it's easy to see that City Hall was built in 1934.
Would you agree that she was ignored?
When you're giving money to the university, do you ever question where it's going? Would you believe there are more than 6,000 vacant or abandoned homes just like this one? In fact, right across the street here, another one. Look at that. Well, we saw that the state controlling board approved that $150,000 for bull semen. We thought, what's going on here?
Money.
This is Beth. Her teachers here know her by her name. This is also Beth, but the Department of Education only knows her as number 628-628. We've been here about 20 minutes, Adam, and really a horrific scene. When we rolled up, we saw a body just lying in the street.
In your mind, this would not be considered a bridge to nowhere.
Cameras capture every move. And after you pass the trooper station, where you go from there is up to you.
They'd have to come out into the street.
Yeah, I've never seen anything like that.
Think of it like this.
If he was here, he would have to pay $20 a day for a wound vac. But on average, Medicaid shells out more than $200 a day for Kennison's treatment at this nursing home.
Thank you,
No
Brooks.
problem.
Thanks, Brooks. Brooks, thank you.
I'm investigator Brooks JAROSZ, ABC6 News.
Well, we are at Genoa Park, where you'll soon have some company by the Scioto River. The word Scioto means hairy deer, after all. So you can come into the park, put down a seat, and then prop up your feet and enjoy some lounging time with two new friends, giant bronze deer, because after all, you're paying to get those deer right here.
It's a vision that rises high above the city skyscrapers, a plan for public art, popping up to put Columbus on the revitalization map. ABC6 investigators started tracking it all. Hundreds of thousands of taxpayer dollars spent on artwork. We dug into a special project headed up by the Columbus Art Commission. A panel sought out more than 100 artists worldwide to submit their designs for downtown.
One of man's great desires is to create something that will outlive him. And I do that every day.
Artist Alan Cottrell feels slighted. Around every corner, bronze sculptures surround you at his studio in Zanesville.
I'm God when I do this.
But he wasn't even invited to submit an art plan.
Not even to get a phone call and not even to be considered for the casting. Yeah, I feel neglected.
Instead, meeting minutes and approved project records we obtained show it will cost taxpayers $280,000. What is it? Two giant humanized bronze deer planned for the banks of the Scioto River in Genoa Park.
Well, the amount of money spent on art is a very small piece in comparison to the entire amount that one spends on revitalizing an area.
Remember Flowing Kiss? It was the original design winner for North Bank Park, costing you $250,000. A consultant was hired for $20,000 to oversee the project. But the city tells us the Scioto Lounge proposal was so well received, the committee decided to clear the way for that project too, taking another $280,000 from city taxpayers.
The artist got a great deal, that's all I have to say. I'd like some projects like that.
The project contract and artist details are still being drawn up, like no horns. The kids might get impaled. Maybe the legs on this one should be crossed. Or no sex. Parents might be damaged psychologically.
We talked to the artist, who says he will cast and create his deer in Walla Walla, Washington, hundreds of miles away, and it's all costing you.
Government waste is what it is. I mean, shame on them. They could easily have gotten a couple of art professors at Ohio State to oversee it.
In fact, Cottrell already has two works at OSU. Look familiar?
And we kind of think he's a winner. Woody Hayes.
How about this guy?
America's Black Streak, Jesse Owen. The world's most superb runner makes the others look as if they're walking.
Both sculptures just part of Cottrell's portfolio.
Nobody produces as much work as I do. As you can see, there's 500 bronze statues here. I have over 100 monumental scale statues around the country.
Project organizers didn't want to talk on camera, but say they're working on building a public art collection to draw visitors. But since an Ohio artist was not picked to put artwork in this park, Cottrell is up in arms.
They didn't need to spend that much money on something like this. They could have gotten 5 times the amount of art for half the price.
While the city did consider local, national, and international artists, some like Cottrell are taking aim on the process, the decision-making, and at the end of the day, how and where your money is being invested.
They're a common sight in some Columbus neighborhoods. The city is blighted by hundreds of homes left vacant, abandoned, and trashed.
Tonight, investigator Brooks JAROSZ digs into who's ultimately accountable for cleanup on these properties. Brooks is here with a special ABC6 Waste Watch investigation. Brooks?
Well, you know, we all want clean communities, but when owners go AWOL, the cost of the cleanup falls back on you. And with more than 6,000 vacant homes in the city, you better believe we're paying big bucks.
Tall weeds and rising grass, broken and boarded up windows, homes left trashed and deserted. Just roll down this section of Mound Street in West Columbus.
Everybody that passes by sees all that, you know what I mean? And then here we are. Like we live right across the street from it.
This is the view Anthony Mossberg and his family sees every day. It's just a few hundred feet from a school zone, a block that's quickly becoming run down.
I'd like to see them fix it up and give a family a home or something.
This is 2066 Mound Street, overgrown and abandoned. Tired of seeing this eyesore, we took several tips and started digging. ABC6 investigators found numerous code violations and safety concerns.
All neighborhoods, you know, should have properties that don't violate code.
Dana Rose is the Columbus Code Enforcement Administrator. We showed him this neglected home. He wasn't surprised.
It's, again, you know, one of the 6,000 that evidently the owner has abandoned, walked away from, so we're going to have to cut that grass and clean it up.
I was kind of shocked, like somebody actually is over there doing something.
The cleanup happened that week. The charge is added to the owner's property taxes. But this property's owner, we learned, was more than 3 years and $6,000 behind on taxes. And as we dug deeper, we cross-referenced the owner's name and stumbled upon the company Realistic Investors, LLC. We decided to see what other homes that company owned. Next door, 2072 Mound Street, vacant, abandoned, and boarded up, with code violations and owing nearly $7,000 in taxes. Down the street, 2425 Mound, overgrown and deserted near a school zone with code violations, owing more than $6,000 in taxes. Around the corner, 2264 Whitehead Road, abandoned and run down. A car registered to that address left sitting with flat tires. And the next street over, 2047 Rhea Avenue. High grass, broken windows, and junk everywhere. The dilapidated house is sitting just feet from a school. All of the properties, according to the Franklin County Auditor, owned by Realistic Investors, LLC.
You need to take responsibility for your property, whether it's an owner or a bank or whatever, if a bank takes a property back.
Accountability becomes a tangled web. Owners have 1 week to fix code violations, or else the city says it will take other actions.
You know, ultimately, you know, it falls back on the taxpayer.
Contracts to cut grass and remove weeds falls on you. Last year, the city spent $700,000 of your money.
So essentially $700,000 to clean up someone else's mess.
Correct.
According to the Secretary of State, Realistic Investors LLC dissolved in 2011. Since then, these properties have sat unattended. Code enforcement has been keeping them somewhat cleaned up.
We can locate a person, we can take them to court and try to force them to pay us the money back or take care of these properties.
We decided to take on that task and track down the LLC members.
This is it right here.
After visiting their last known address with no luck, we tried phone number.
We're sorry. You've reached a number that has been disconnected or is no longer in service.
After phone number.
I'm sorry, but the person you called has a voicemail box that has not been set up yet. Goodbye.
Then a tip took us on a road trip, traveling 60 miles to Xenia, Ohio, to this home.
Hi there.
A woman who confirmed she was a relative of the couple we were looking for answered the door. Despite the couple's van in the driveway, she told us they weren't home. We questioned her about the properties and the family business.
As far as my knowledge goes,
Sure.
the banks were supposed to take possession of those, and they failed to do so.
We checked, and the properties are still in limbo. The auditor confirmed to ABC6 Realistic Investors owns these places. Still, we're the ones paying.
There's a lot of needy families that could use houses and stuff, you know. I mean, even if they was to just fix them up enough and sell them, give somebody else a chance to, you know, be able to benefit and whatever from it.
As tax liens grow, the city works to take action, ultimately selling or tearing these places down. It's another set of challenges.
But the problem is we've got inventory now.
Leaving it up to you to foot the bill for someone else's trashy taste and irresponsibility.
We dug into court records and found lawsuits and other legal battles between the city and property owners, but the biggest challenge is tracking them down. It really is easier said than done.
It may look and smell like your average farm, but this one you're paying for, because this one's at a prison.
I've been locked up for 5 years.
Just a few hundred feet from their cells, inmates like Charles Warren
I had an aggravated robbery. That was my original charge.
spend the morning at the London dairy farm, milking and cleaning.
Coming to prison,
He never thought he'd be caring for cows.
it's not a good thing, but you have to make the best out of your situation. So that's what I've done.
We may not be putting farmers on the street. We're teaching guys to work.
And while the inmates do the dirty work, there's a more scientific operation happening here. It's locked away and comes inside this cold canister.
We got several different bulls in each canister. So they get numbers and their names on top, and I got to find the right one.
Not the entire animal.
And pull it out and thaw it out.
But straws of bull semen. Believe it or not, $150,000 of your money was just approved to artificially inseminate hundreds of cows in the state prison system. Just this year, well over $15,000 has already been spent at this farm to keep these cows pregnant.
$150,000 is a big number. That is 2 years worth divided amongst 5 dairies. And once you break that down, it's industry standard.
Staff members are trained on breeding to save some cash. Still, this process and each service costs about $23.
Spend $20 on a straw semen, you get a calf on the ground that's worth $150.
There's no guarantees, but farmers say by the second or third try,
And she is pregnant.
the other cows are milked daily. Last year, nearly 1.8 million gallons of milk were produced for prisons across Ohio. Inmates feed, care, and clean the stalls.
She's skittish.
Veterinarians like Dr. Troy Brick from The Ohio State University are paid to check out the cow's progress. But not all news is good news.
This is one of those, I'm going to say, rechecker.
Brick educates students, inmates, and staff here, and it's all hands-on.
What I do now, I love. I get to teach and I get to practice.
I've become quite the cowboy. Since I've been out here, I could say that.
It's been happening for decades at this farm, saving the state thousands for meat and milk to feed prisoners. It starts with $150,000 for those precious straws of semen.
It's a pretty common thing, really, across the nation.
Housed behind the razor wire, from the canister to the cow to calf conception. It's the circle of life.
After this, I don't want to see a cow.
Now, the inmates have to reach a certain security level before they can work on the farm, and many times it's not by choice. They're forced. to do the work.
Sure, as will happen in prison.
Right.
But
That's right.
you went out to actually, I think, probably to look and see if money was being wasted here and found out that this was making some money. How much?
Right. Well, we saw that the State Controlling Board approved that $150,000 for bull semen. We thought, what's going on here?
A lot of money, yeah.
And we found out that there are several $100,000 that are being saved because all of the meat, all of the milk, everything is being put right back into the prison system, and that's what the inmates eat, and that's what the inmates drink. So it's really a savings to all of us.